Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
There will be a brief ad at the end of this video. However, we've discussed before how oftentimes it takes a very, very serious incident to put something into the news that's shocking to the conscience before anybody will stand up and go, maybe we should pass a law to fix that. And Florida has now suggested that the time has come to try to do something about squatters. That is, somebody moves into a home, and when the real owner shows up, the squatters go, get off our property. So you call the cops and go, hey, there's somebody inside my house. The cops show up and they go, hey, you, what are you doing in the house? We're renting it from somebody. Here's a copy of our lease. Cops look at their lease, look at you and go, we don't know who to believe. And so the cops will often go, it's a civil matter. Now, the weird part about it is if someone's trespassing on your property and it's obvious and the police show up and you go, that person's a trespasser, the police could, if they wanted to, arrest them for trespass because trespass is a crime in most places. But when they're faced with the competing, it's ours, no, it's ours, they throw their hands up and walk away from it. So Florida has a proposed bill which aims to close the squatting loophole after a homeowner was terrorized for 34 days and suffered $40,000 in damage to the house. The bill is sponsored by a Florida state rep, Kevin Steele. And Fox News published a story by Andrew Mark Miller. Florida lawmakers are moving forward with legislation. They say it'll fix the key loophole that has allowed squatters to take advantage of unsuspecting property owners across the Sunshine State in recent years. There was a spate of squatting that also occurred after the economic issues in 08 and 09. A lot of homes became unoccupied, and some people were looking around going, gee, I need a home. There's an unoccupied house. I'll just move into it. And so when it's an unoccupied house, nobody's keeping a close eye on it, someone can move in and pretend they live there for weeks or months maybe. So House Bill 621 was put forward in response to a resident from Jacksonville who made national headlines earlier this year when several squatters moved into her Jacksonville property and caused nearly $40,000 in damages. Now, the homeowner first discovered the two squatters who broke into the rental property after she sent a handyman over to make repairs because she was planning on the home being inspected so she could show it to a prospective buyer because she was trying to put the home on the market. So the home is vacant, it's being prepared to be sold, and two people just move into it. So when she attempted to ask them to leave, they showed a lease that they said they'd gotten from somebody else, and that gave them the right to stay. Now that's one of the most common scams out there, and we don't know in this case if these people honestly thought they were dealing with the owner when they signed the lease, or if they just simply manufactured a lease. Because you can find this stuff on the internet. You can literally find a blank lease on the internet, fill it out yourself, sign it, and go, I have a lease. It's signed. Look at that. Okay. So the saga went on for 34 days. The squatters caused $38,000 worth of damages, plus legal fees. They smashed walls and windows. They knocked cabinets off the walls. The washer and dryer went missing. Toilets were broken, and fecal matter was scattered throughout the home. Now, let me ask you a question. If you honestly thought you had a lease for the house, would you then go and do this kind of stuff? So it would tend to look like the whole thing was a scam from the beginning. So the woman here who's the victim said these squatters know the laws better than most attorneys do, and they use them to their advantage, and the police are absolutely hamstrung. They know that this is a civil matter. The police have absolutely no right to remove the squatters and treat them as criminals, as individuals that have broken in or trespassed, and they simply throw up their hands and say, you need to go through the civil court system and evict them. And again, the police do have the power, in theory, to arrest someone breaking into a home, someone trespassing in a home. Of course they do. But you have to look at it from the police perspective. Someone calls them and says, there's someone in my house. They walk up and knock on the door, and the person answers the door and goes, no, this is my house. How do the police know? Do you actually want the police then to go to the records place and look up the deed and do a title search? So you can see why they don't want to get involved, but it would help if there was a law that made it easier to get involved. The new bill would allow for immediate removal of squatters by law enforcement if they can't produce a notarized lease from a landowner or proof they're paying rent. Now, those two things sound like a good idea, but of course, producing a notarized lease, again, is not that difficult. But the good news is that if you actually get something notarized, if you did that properly, you can track down the notary who notarized it and say, okay, who appeared before you and created this document? So you might be able to track down who did it that way. But also, proof you're paying rent. That means that someone can just produce a stack of canceled checks and go, I'm paying rent to somebody. What if they're paying rent to somebody who's not the true owner? Because that's possible too. Because I've heard of that happening before where somebody sees a vacant property. It's been vacant for a while. So they go, oh, I have a new idea. I'll put an ad on Craigslist and say home for rent. Someone will show up and I'll rent them the home. And they'll assume I'm the landlord. And they can be paying me money the entire time. So they produce those receipts. Well, this law is going to say that you can't immediately oust them. So I pursued this bill because I saw the impact that it had on Patty, that's the victim, and as well as others in the state. Steele told News4 Jax, J-A-X. Number two, we're putting penalties on the individuals if they provide fraudulent documentation. Now that's good. So they're going to have criminal charges on that perspective. So if they do dummy up the documents, when you find out and prove later that those documents were dummied up, there's a punishment for that. Now the woman said she feared for her safety because there were altercations with the squatters. We were driving by at night and they threw a brick at my car. And she said the brick hit the car and damaged it. We had the window partway down and they threw human feces into the car. There's a line you've crossed when you throw that around your own house or someone else's house or at someone else's car. If you want to go in the backyard and throw it at your friends, knock yourself out, but that's different. The bill filed in November would abolish squatters' rights in Florida. And Florida is a state that's become one of the most susceptible to the problem in recent years. So squatters' rights is an old concept, and originally it meant that if there was a piece of vacant or abandoned land and somebody came onto it, was there for a while, they could claim some sort of right to be there, similar to adverse possession. Maybe not quite as good as adverse possession, which gives you ownership after a while. But if you've been there a while and you can make up some kind of justification as to why you thought it was okay, the law used to say, okay, we'll give that a little different treatment than if you're an out-and-out trespasser. But the bill would abolish squatters' rights. And unfortunately, squatters' rights have been abused so badly in all 50 states in the last couple decades that the other states should follow suit. Should just simply go, no, squatters' rights are out the window. So if someone else is in the house, they got to produce a notarized lease or proof of rent payments, and that should at least help you figure out who's behind what's going on. So homeowners across the U.S. have been victimized by squatters this year, many finding themselves with no legal recourse, and with police departments unable to assist due to the way the laws are often structured. Pacific Legal Foundation Vice President of Legal Affairs said, I think it's a fairly big problem, and I think it's pretty hard to avoid. If somebody is living in a home saying, I signed a lease, I'm paying rent, I have a right to be here, whether or not that's true, the police hear that story, then they hear a story of somebody who's not living there saying, this is my place, these people don't belong here, the police officer can't make that legal determination. So the one thing that they need to add to these laws, and this is actually what the biggest loophole is in the laws as they're on the books right now, and it's not really a loophole, it's just that the courts are slow. So if I move to evict somebody and they're a legitimate tenant, I got to jump through all kinds of hoops to get them out. If I move to evict somebody who's a squatter, I often have to jump through the exact same hoops. And so they should make it to where the courts that do the landlord-tenant stuff, which is where these cases are going to wind up quite often, is they need to make it so that if you allege that somebody's wrongfully possessing the property, and they're doing this without your permission, and they're doing it and they're squatting, they need to put you to the head of the line. They need to have an expedited process where the court's going to say, you know something? Even though you just filed this today, we'll have a hearing tomorrow or 2 days from now, and at least get the very, very basics of this. So you drag the person in and have them show you the notarized lease and proof of payments. And if they produce a notarized lease that was given to them by somebody other than the true owner. Many courthouses that I'm familiar with are in the same buildings as the Register of Deeds. So the judge could say, hey, clerk, run down to the Register of Deeds and find out who owns that property. And they come back and they go, they own it. Okay, they're the ones who claim that these people don't belong there. Did they sign that lease? No, they did not. Okay, bad news for you. You signed a lease, it's fraudulent. You're out. You got 24 hours. And by the way, you don't have to give the people a huge leeway on how much time to get out of the house. In fact, I'd be inclined to say that a judge could order and say they're out right now. They need to stay out. They got no right to re-enter and even get their stuff out. They shouldn't have brought their stuff into somebody else's house. So I've mentioned before that, if somebody broke into my house and just moved in, they don't have the right to stay there at all. So I have the right to eject them forthwith. And if they complain and go, but my stuff's in there, whose fault is that, as I like to ask? It's your fault, isn't it? You're the one who put it in there. Oh, well, too bad. That's a risk you take. And so, you always hope that laws disincentivize people from breaking the law. That is, one of the reasons that you have harsh penalties for really bad crimes is that a criminal might think, gee, I don't want to do that because if I get caught, I could go to jail for life. Okay? So if squatters right now think the worst that'll happen is I'm going to have to leave there eventually and go on down the road and I'm in the clear. So they also need to add a punitive section to this and say not only can the true homeowner get you ousted, but if it's found that you were squatting and you had reason to know that it was owned by somebody other than who you dealt with, or simply that you were BSing on the whole thing, they should add some jail time to it and say, you want a roof over your head? We'll give you a roof over your head. Behind bars. So there you go. It's a step in the right direction because they're addressing it. But like I said, they need to add a few more things to it. One is to expedite the legal process, and two is to add a punitive section to it to punish people who do this because it needs to stop. So everybody who sent this, thank you very much. A whole bunch of people did from Fox News. Andrew Mark Miller wrote it. Florida bill aims to close squatting loophole after homeowner terrorized for 34 days and $40,000 in damages. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye. I told you at the top there'd be a brief ad at the end of this video. Here we are. I'm going to talk to you right now about a toothbrush called the Lehto toothbrush. And I've mentioned before that I get approached all the time about doing endorsements, and I say, well, I'll consider it if it sounds like something I might use. And I turn down most of the things I get offered, and then if I use it and like it, then we'll talk about it. Well, here we are. I've used this, and I love it. I got this about a month ago. I've been using it twice a day since then, and I'm not going back to an analog toothbrush. I won't do it. And so I'm going to tell you something about me that you do not know in about 60 seconds. Trust me on that one. But in 2014, Dr. Kuroush Madahi, who's a dentist, realized that he didn't like any of the electric toothbrushes on the market to recommend to his patients. So he decided to develop one on his own, knowing what he knows, and develop this. And so here we are, 9 years later, and we have this Lehto toothbrush, which comes as beautiful, beautiful packaging, which I was impressed by as well. I like it when companies put that much effort into the packaging. But it's an electric toothbrush that is extremely cool, well-designed, comfortable. It's got a bamboo shaft. It's got bristles made out of renewable material. So we're not going to be filling landfills with anything we don't need to. But the thing about it is that it is extremely good in that it reaches places and cleans exceptionally well. And what you don't know about me, I'm going to tell you, this is a secret. Don't tell anybody. But a man of my age, I have all four of my wisdom teeth, both sides, top and bottom. Every time I go to a new dentist, the dentist looks in my mouth and goes, hey, everybody, get in here. And they all crowd around and look in my mouth because I've got all my wisdom teeth. Very, very unusual. I remember kids getting pulled in high school. I remember that. But I never went through that. I've got them. So here's the deal. I've been brushing my teeth, for the most part, my entire life, using an analog toothbrush. I've tried electric toothbrushes once or twice that just didn't do it for me. So when they said we've got one here, it's modern, it's cool, it's well designed, it's designed by a dentist. and you're going to like it. I said, okay, I'll try that. And I tried it, and I love it. So first I'm going to tell you, number one, it is a well-designed device. It looks good. It's got a charging base. You just put it in the charging base. When you want to use it, you put it back. Apparently it holds a charge for quite some time, so if you wanted to, you can just charge it, bring it on vacation, it'll probably be fine. It's got several speeds and several different modes that you go through. And it is extremely good at what it does. And that's the thing. So to reach my wisdom teeth in the back using an old toothbrush in the old school style, I could get back there, but it was difficult. And occasionally I wondered if I was really doing a good job, but I do the best I can. This thing gets all your teeth and you feel like, yes, I've done a thorough job. And that's really the thing, is that I wondered when they said we're going to send you one, would I actually be able to tell the difference? Would it seem any different, or would it just be like, oh, now you're just using a machine to do something you could have done with your hand? No, it turns out it's actually a very, very different experience. So the bristles are soft, but they're made with renewable material. They deep clean with uncompromising care, and that's absolutely true. And the replacement head is made with bamboo, and the bristles are made from castor oil, believe it or not. So that stuff is all not bad for the environment. So it's not, we're filling up our landfills with stuff that is bad. Meanwhile, there are 5 cleaning modes. I told you about that on the front here. That'll help you with whatever it is that you think you need to do. And in particular, I'm always concerned about how sensitive my gums are. And so I put it on the sensitive mode, and it works out perfectly. Meanwhile, the battery life is up to 6 weeks on a full charge. But the key thing here is it was designed, created by Dr. Kourosh Madahi, and he's the dentist who wanted to be able to recommend something to his patients, to his family, to his friends, and say, yes, this is a product that I can get behind. And after poking around in the market, he thought, I think I can do a better job. I think I can. So this is after several years of development, research and development. It's available in a variety of colors. This right here is a blue, but you can get it in deep dark blue, light blue, pink, and so it's whatever you want to do. And here's the thing: is that for being a viewer of my channel and listening to this ad, you can get $10 off on the Lumino toothbrush, the electric toothbrush. And we're going to make it really easy to deal with because they are available on Amazon. And so I'm going to put up on the description below and also in the first pinned comment a link you can click that'll take you to Amazon. And you simply go to Amazon and read the description of it, and you can order it there. And if you order it there, you get $10 off. So again, I got this about a month ago. I've used it every day since then, and I have no intention of stopping use of this device. I love this toothbrush. And, if you said, Steve, 5 years ago, before I did any ads on this channel, Steve, someday, you're going to be doing ads, I'd say, okay, I understand that. That makes sense. And if somebody said, Steve, you're going to be raving about a toothbrush, I'd be like, well, I'll believe it when I see it. I've learned to never foreclose any possibility of something that might happen in the future, but this is the deal. It's a cool thing. By the way, I'm really into gadgets. I love gadgets, and it's just a neat device. It's comfortable. It was designed well, and like I said, it works really, really well. And I have tried electric toothbrushes in the past. Just never quite clicked with me. Never did. This one did. So if you use an electric toothbrush, consider changing to this. If you don't use an electric toothbrush because you never found one you liked, kind of like what I was telling you, try it. And like I said, if you go to Amazon with a link below the video, you'll get $10 off one of these Lumino toothbrushes. It'll come in this beautiful packaging, and I think you'll agree with me that it is the best toothbrush out there. So there you go. And don't tell anybody about the wisdom teeth. It'll just be between us, okay? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. It's all been satirized for your protection.